Chapter 826, Beaches deserve an eye for an eye. They were sisters, yet one was glorified while the other was shamed. However, Tangning knew that this young woman was a uniquely talented singer who had been left with no choice but to settle as a music teacher. So, Tangning felt it was the right time to contact her because a large-scale singing competition was about to start. Plus, Lin Keon had been monitoring her to see if she was still passionate about winning. That night, Mo Ting returned home and wrapped Zixi in his embrace as he looked at Tangning. There's not much time left. Tangning held onto her bowl and chopsticks and glanced at Mo Ting. You don't trust me? I'm just getting impatient on your behalf. You don't need to. Tangning handed Mo Ting a bowl and chopsticks. When have I disappointed you? You really don't need my help, Mo Ting asked suggestively as he raised an eyebrow. Number, I know I will need to pay for it. Tangning wasn't falling for his trick. After dinner, Mo Ting gave the two rascals a bath while Tangning gave Lin Keon a phone call. We don't have much time left. It's time to make a move. Actually, Lin Keon was already struggling to control herself. Such a talented young girl was being schemed against by her own sister. It wasn't hard to imagine how angry she must be, especially since she spent every day at music school, repeating the same easy work that she obviously didn't like. However, Tangning had not told Lin Keon to do anything until now. So, now that Tangning finally felt it was time, Lin Keon immediately threw out her invite. The next day, while the young woman was teaching a class, Lin Keon waited outside her classroom. And, as soon as she finished, Lin Keon invited her out for a chat. Could I please have half an hour of your time? I'm aware you don't have any classes in the afternoon. The woman was a little surprised, but after seeing Lin Keon's business card, she nodded her head. Although she wanted to reject Lin Keon, she couldn't possibly turn away anything related to the entertainment industry. Soon, the two women arrived at a cafe near the school. As soon as they sat down, Lin Keon began to introduce herself. You can call me Lin Keon. I am from Superstar Media. I've never heard of Superstar Media before. The woman shook her head. That's not important. What's important is, do you want to get back what belongs to you? Lin Keon asked straightforwardly. I've actually been monitoring you for some time and I'm aware of your past. I think things are fine the way they are right now. The woman unexpectedly rejected Lin Keon before she even finished talking. You must think I'm a scammer, don't you? Lin Keon laughed. Don't be offended by my honesty, but what do you have for me to scam? If I want money, you don't have any. If I want to take advantage of your body, you don't have that either. The woman looked at Lin Keon awkwardly. I know that you almost came in first place in a singing competition but you ended up being disqualified because of your sister. Lin Keon jumped to the main point to keep the woman interested. If we can give you another chance to step onto the stage, do you have the confidence to secure first place? The woman's eyes obviously lit up for a moment, but it quickly faded. There's no use. My sister told me, if I participate in a singing competition again, she will reveal my history of stealing to the public. What if I told you that we can clear your name? Lin Keon asked with a smile. That's impossible. There's nothing that Superstar Media can't do. After speaking, Lin Keon pulled out her business card again and handed it to the woman. Don't lose it this time. I have a feeling you will need it. I can promise you that we will not only clear your name, but we will also secure you a position in an upcoming singing competition. Of course, you need to be brave as well. If you want to spend the rest of your life being humiliated, then no one can help you. Think it over. If you are happy to go ahead, then come sign a contract at Superstar Media tomorrow. After speaking, Lin Keon left the cafe, leaving the woman alone with her rapidly beating heart. Even in her dreams she hoped to step on the stage again. However, her sister kept finding ways to suppress her. Even her current job had to get the approval of her sister. What meaning did she have left in her life? After a moment of thought, the woman gave her sister a phone call. But, her sister picked up the phone in an extremely annoyed tone. Didn't I tell you that I'm really busy during the day and that you shouldn't call me? Do you want the entire nation to know that you are a thief? Hearing her sister's threat, she quickly took a deep breath and apologized. I'm sorry. What's the point of being sorry? You never remember anything. Didn't you consider that I'm a famous singer? How could I have such an embarrassing sister? Don't ever call me again. After speaking, Her sister hung up the phone. The young woman held onto the phone in a daze. In the end, she let out a cold laugh. Perhaps, superstar media was worth a try. Actually, that night, Lin Keong was also quite unsettled. She had to admit that she wasn't as convincing as Long Ji and didn't know how to appeal to one's emotions. However, she still had a feeling that the young woman would show up. So, the next day, she arrived nice and early at the office. Not long after, the young woman also arrived. "I am happy to sign the contract, but I would like to add one condition. You can't allow my sister to know that I'm participating in the competition," the young woman said to Lin Keong. "That's easy," Lin Keong shrugged. The woman impulsively signed the contract before she realized that she acted too hastily. I'm a little regretful." "You don't need to be regretful. We've already signed you up for the competition using a new stage name and have scheduled a makeover for you. No one will recognize you for now. Only after you qualify for the national rounds will ask someone notice you, if you know what I mean. As for the music school that you are working at, I will make arrangements with them so your sister doesn't find out. You simply need to focus on getting back what belongs to you." "I don't understand. Why are you doing this?" The young woman was confused. They weren't cheating her of her money or her body. At the same time, she wasn't famous, but they were willing to do so much for her. "You will understand when the time comes," Lin Keong concluded without explaining anything. As it was her first time dealing with a matter like this, there were a lot of things that Lin Keong didn't know how to do. So, she needed guidance from Tang Ning, including arrangements for the young woman during the competition. So it seemed, Tang Ning needed to personally step into action this time. As for the shameless younger sister, perhaps only someone at Tang Ning's level would be able to deal with her. Beaches deserved an eye for an eye. However, the young woman was still worried that her history of stealing would be revealed. She didn't believe that superstar media had the ability to clear her name. So, she constantly reminded herself to be careful. Meanwhile, Tang Ning was waiting patiently for the day that the younger sister came knocking on the door. Chapter 827, I Want a Daughter. Long Ji had the ability to manage Luo Xing, but Lin Keong wasn't experienced enough. Tang Ning needed to make arrangements and give her pointers, especially since their new artist was the key to superstar media's survival. So, following on, Tang Ning placed all her focus on this woman. Luo Xing quickly found out from Long Ji that superstar media had signed a new artist, and this artist was not only a female, but she was also a singer, which meant, the two of them weren't competitors. After all, the circles in which they each existed were unlikely to overlap. Actually, he expected all along that if superstar media wanted to progress, they couldn't possibly just sign one artist. However, he could tell that the entire agency was already very thoughtful towards him. Luo Xing, since superstar media has signed a contract with you, they won't just give up on you. You don't need to worry. Long Ji personally visited Luo Xing on set to provide reassurance. As she looked at the director, she also whispered beside his ear, "Your director is a righteous person. You can get to know him better." Although Luo Xing was a little confused, he still nodded his head. He knew that Long Ji's words weren't simply what they appeared on the surface. "Your current homework is to gather contacts. You don't need to use any fancy words, just be sincere. Even if the sky falls down, superstar media will ensure that you get famous." At this point in time, Luo Xing didn't fully understand the meaning behind Long Ji's words. But soon, he would realize that Tang Ning's advice was a turning point in his career towards stardom. Mo Ting quickly found out that Tang Ning signed another artist and was planning to enter her into a singing competition called A Journey. He had to admit that Tang Ning's arrangement made sense. If you can help her win first place, she can come directly to Hyrule. Mo Ting said to Tang Ning, "I don't need you to go easy on me. I'm not. Hyrule is a sponsor for this competition and we have a contract with the organizers," Mo Ting replied gently. "If you can secure first place for her, then she deserves to enter Hyrule." Tang Ning's eyes lit up in surprise. "Really?" Mo Ting carried Tang Ning's freshly bathed body in his arms and placed her on top of their bed as he ran his hand across her belly. "When have I ever lied to you? You can't meddle with the results just to help me." Tang Ning needed reassurance. "I want her to hold the trophy in her hands because she deserves it." "Yes, as you wish." After speaking, Mo Ting leaned over and placed a kiss on Tang Ning's stomach. Tang Ning took a deep breath as she gripped onto Mo Ting's hair. Ting, I still want a daughter. But, I don't plan to make you pregnant again, Mo Ting replied. After all, the two rascals already caused you so much pain when you were giving birth to them. If you suffer again, it will break my heart. That was because it was my first pregnancy. The second time won't be as bad, Tang Ning assured. I still won't allow it. But, I want to see your helpless and loving expression around your little lover, Tang Ning persisted. Now that the two rascals can walk and I have some spare time, I want to have a daughter. If you want to have a daughter, then we will have to see what you are capable of. Mo Ting lay down and looked seriously into Tang Ning's eyes. It was obvious what he was trying to say. She would have to make it happen herself. Tang Ning glared at him, but still flipped over and pressed herself on top of his body. Even if she didn't want a daughter, she wouldn't be able to keep her hands off Mo Ting's body anyway, because simply admiring it with her eyes wasn't enough. After being in a relationship for so long, the couple understood each other's sensitive spots. So, Tang Ning knew that focusing behind Mo Ting's ear would make him lose control. Seeing Mo Ting react, Tang Ning smiled. You can't resist anymore, can you? Hurry. Mo Ting wanted so badly to squish this woman between his arms. Why was she still so irresistible to him? The next day, at Hyrule, although Tang Ning had told Mo Ting not to get involved, he still called Lu Che into his office and instructed, keep an eye on the A-Journey singing competition. We can't let anything unfair happen. If any dirty deals are made or winners are unofficially predetermined, you know the consequences. Don't worry, President, Lu Che nodded. Since the competition was important to Mo Ting, it was necessary for it to be completely fair. So, Lu Che immediately contacted the organizers and told them to strictly abide by the rules of the competition because Hyrule would be watching. Meanwhile, Lin Qian took the young woman to see the stylist she had arranged so she could get a makeover. To keep her hidden, Tang Ning instructed the stylist to cut her hair short and give her a gender-neutral look. On top of that, to separate her from the usual divas, Lin Qian asked the stylist to draw a mole just below her right eye. Lin Qian remembered Tang Ning's instructions to make the young woman look like a country bumpkin, that it'd be best if she disappeared when placed into a crowd. Remember, you have a new name. You are now called Xinglan. The young woman looked at herself in the mirror and nodded her head, even though she didn't understand Lin Qian's plan. The auditions are about to begin. You will need to go through a short period of training. Understood. You've entered a competition before and should understand the rules. The entire process will take 3 months and the final winner will directly sign a contract with Hyrule, Lin Qian explained, which means the competition won't involve any dirty tactics and won't be unfair. Xinglan turned around and looked at Lin Qian with a twinkle in her eye. I will definitely win first place. You just wait and see. But you can't depend on singing alone, you still need some battle techniques. Unfortunately, I am of no help when it comes to this, but you will have a special mentor, Lin Qian said as she raised an eyebrow in a secretive manner. Xinglan was confused, but, without realizing it, she had already developed a trust towards superstar media. However, your mentor will not appear until you enter the top 100. For now, if there are any problems, you can contact her through me. Okay. I will definitely see her very soon. Although the expectations for the initial stages of the competition weren't very high, it didn't mean that one shouldn't be cautious. The day before the auditions, Xinglan decided she was going to blow everyone away with her performance. But, that night, she received a phone call from Lin Qian. Simply display your general abilities at the auditions tomorrow, don't reveal too much of yourself. But the judges may not remember me if I do that. Although Hyrule will ensure that the competition is fair, you must not forget that competitors will compare themselves to you. If you steal the limelight from the beginning, do you think you'd safely make it to the top 100? Keep a low profile. The judges will be able to tell if you are capable or not. Trust me, you will only get one chance at the competition. If you lose your chance, then it's your problem. Chapter 828, Ready to shock everyone. Plus, do you want your sister to discover you straight away? After listening to what Lin Qian said, Xinglan contemplated for an entire night and agreed that Lin Qian's reasoning made sense. She needed to keep a low profile, even if not for any other reason but to hide from her sister. So, for the auditions, her aim was to display that she had a solid foundation. 9 a.m. Xinglan arrived at the auditions accompanied by Lin Qian. Seeing the crowded hectic scene, Xinglan couldn't help but sigh. No matter how difficult it was, the amount of people that wanted to be famous would never decrease. There were strict guidelines for the auditions. Whether it was age or height, there were certain standards. After all, the winner would eventually sign with Hyrule, so they couldn't just accept anyone. Xinglan's conditions weren't bad. In the eyes of the judges, apart from looking a little countrified, she pretty much ticked all the boxes. However, they had no idea that Tang Ning had deliberately made Xinglan look this way. Her non-threatening look made her less noticeable and unlikely to attract enemies. As for those that captured attention straight from the start and were too flashy, they were easily remembered, but they also became the public enemy. Against someone like Xinglan, enemies would only use 30% of their strength, but against someone that liked to show off, they would use everything they had. Gradually, those that qualified for the auditions received a number and headed into the main hall to wait for their names to be called. As there were a lot of candidates, the judges could only give each person a short amount of time. Everyone wanted to make the best use of their time to prove themselves, but plenty of them ended up revealing their weaknesses instead. In fact, to get into the next round, some of the candidates put a lot of effort into their appearance and clothing just so they could stand out in the crowd and leave a lasting impression on the judges. But, Xinglan followed Tang Ning's instructions and turned up with basic clothes and no makeup. Her appearance was simple, yet slightly cruel. Go, it's your turn. Lin Qian was accompanying Xinglan, so, as soon as she heard the judges call Xinglan's name, she immediately gave her a nudge. Don't think too much. Trust in yourself. Xinglan nodded and walked straight into the audition room. The judges had gotten used to seeing extravagant and fancy appearances, so Xinglan was quite a surprise. Although she didn't look as neat and tidy as the other candidates, she had a clean appearance and looked especially pure and innocent. One of the judges took a glance at Xinglan and waved her hand. Start. Xinglan's voice was clean and she did not select a difficult song to sing. In fact, she chose a relaxed and cheery children's song. This made the judges put down their pens and turn their focus to her. Hey, this one's not bad. After listening to so many songs, this one has been the easiest on the ear. The previous female singer was so high-pitched that my eardrums nearly popped. After putting up with so much rubbish, it's quite relaxing to listen to a children's song. As a result, Xinglan sang the entire song, for 3 whole minutes. The judges looked at Xinglan and nodded their heads. Keep doing what you're doing. There's no need to look fancy. Just focus on your singing and you will go far. This is what we call a singer. You're through to the next round. The 4 judges came to a unanimous decision. After bowing to the judges, Xinglan felt tears almost escaping from her eyes. It turned out that the most simple things were the most eye-catching. This was Tang Ning and Lin Qian's intention. There was no point being flashy in front of others. Being able to leave an impression in front of the judges was true success. After seeing Xinglan walk out with a pass for the next round, Lin Qian let out a sigh of relief. But, there was still 3 months left to the competition. At this rate, she still had a lot of anxiety to put up with. Director Lin, thank you. From now on, I will listen to everything you say. Did you think that I came up with this idea? This was all thanks to the expert that's guiding me. You still haven't seen the most impressive part of her yet. Let's go. Keep a low profile. Time to go home and prepare for the next round. Lin Qian placed an arm around Xinglan's shoulder and led her out of the audition hall. Not too far away, Tang Ning's car was actually parked in a hidden corner. She watched as Lin Qian and Xinglan exited the hall and saw the joy in their eyes. It seemed, things went well. In this world, being capable wasn't enough. One had to understand how to help themselves gain points. She's only passed the auditions. There's still a long way to go, Mo Ting said beside Tang Ning. But, with a mentor like you, I'm sure she will go home with first place. Thank you for having so much faith in me. If I was still young, I would definitely give the competition a try, Tang Ning chuckled. That's not allowed. Only I can hear you sing, Mo Ting restricted. Especially at night when your voice sounds particularly good. Be serious, Tang Ning nudged Mo Ting's shoulder playfully before she asked Lu Che to start the car. The competition had just started and there was still a long way until the winner was announced. Meanwhile, being in a competition again made Xinglan especially happy. So, after returning home, it was impossible for her to sleep. But, her a songstress sister always picked the right time to give her a phone call. "What did you want to talk about a couple days ago?" The songstress still sounded as uncaring and arrogant as ever. "It's nothing," Xinglan replied. "I just wanted to ask when your concert tour will start. I was going to come show some support." "Oh, that? I don't have any more tickets to give you, so it's best you just go to work. I have plenty of fans, I don't need your support. Actually, there's something I've been wanting to ask you for a long time. Do you feel even the slightest bit of guilt towards what you did to me 3 years ago?" Xinglan asked. "Why would I feel guilty? It's normal for an older sister to step aside for their younger sister. Plus, you should blame yourself for stealing," the young woman replied. "My good sister, haven't I been making sure that you're not starving? I've been feeding you well and I've supported you. What else do you want? You don't know how tiring it is to be a singer. By the way, Mom and Dad bought me a house just for you." "Of course, why would they buy one for a daughter that embarrasses them?" Xinglan's sister asked. "Don't think that Mom and Dad are being biased. You asked for this. By the way, I have other things to deal with, so I'm going to hang up now." Xinglan felt her heart being sliced open, but she resisted the urge to explode. One day, she was going to let the beach know how it truly meant to be a winner. As for her parents, from the moment that they kicked her out of the family home, she no longer considered them as her parents. One day, she was going to make them regret what they had done. But, her main priority for now, was to get into the top 100. She had to meet the person that was guiding Lin Qi behind the scene. It was at this time that superstar media also began to become widely known. So, at this time, Tang Ning was ready to shock everyone. She was never going to let the world bully her again. Chapter 829, Tang Ning's back again. The organizers decided to name the competition using the English word journey because it sounded extra impressive and they intended to create an image of an ultimate battle. The first stage of the competition was split into auditions, preliminary round, top 300 and top 100, and utilized the most truthless method of elimination. There were no second chances or other arrangements, which meant, only those in the top 100 had the privilege to find out about the next stage in the competition. Starting from the preliminary rounds, the competition would be broadcasted live at 6 p.m. every Saturday. And it was expected, within 1 month, the top 100 would be decided. The competition was fast-paced. Within the short span of a few days, the contestants were expected to be ready for the next round of fierce rivalry. This was the reality behind the ruthless journey that they were on. A frightening number of people passed the auditions, so don't let your guard down by assuming that there are a lot of spots available for the next round. It's okay for you to relax, but you need to understand how important this competition is to you, Lin Qian reminded after escorting Xinglan home. While she was there, she took the opportunity to scan over her apartment. "This place won't do, it's too basic. You need to move." "But, won't that attract suspicion from my sister?" "Don't worry, from the moment that you signed with Superstar Media, your private matters were made confidential. That is, unless you reveal it yourself," Lin Qian guaranteed. "Your sister will simply think that you are quietly being a teacher at music school." "Okay, I'll follow the agency's arrangements." "In that case, I'll take you to dinner first and we can come back to pack your bags after." Lin Qian ended up taking Xinglan to a hotel for dinner. However, not long after they sat down, they began to hear people talking about the competition. It was, after all, a big production that only took place once every few years, so it naturally started conversations. "You entered the competition too. Did you pass the auditions? Who do you think our Nana is?" "She's pretty and has a great voice. She's born to be a star." Hearing the conversation from their neighboring table, Lin Qian shook her head and looked at Xinglan. "Remember that girl named Nana? I bet she'll be eliminated in the next round." "No way. She's so pretty." The woman was dressed in a long white dress with a sweet and beautiful appearance. No matter how one looked at it, she was bound to get a good result. "Did you think that this is a beauty contest? Trust me, A piece of disgusting news will soon surface. Fame and fortune was a huge temptation. Once one got hold of an opportunity to gain it, they would not be so silly as to let it go. Don't worry, the way you've been keeping a low profile is perfect. Xinglan wasn't a threat for anyone, at least for now. She wasn't going to attract any trouble. Lin Qian was proud of this, but of course, this was all thanks to the guidance from Tang Ning. In response, Xinglan revealed a smile. The next round was due in 6 days. However, unlike everyone else, Tang Ning was in no rush to train Xinglan, nor did she hire any experts to perfect her singing technique. Instead, she instructed her to relax. Xinglan wasn't any less talented than anyone else. All she was lacking was a stable mindset and confidence. Soon, the next round took place inside the Beijing Stadium. As usual, Lin Qian accompanied Xinglan to the competition. This time, it was also an elimination round. The contestants were split into groups of 5, but only one survived from each group. The 2 women spotted the beautiful Nana in the stadium, and as usual, she was dressed to the nines. When one looked at her, it was impossible to take their eyes off her. But, according to what Lin Qian said the other day, this woman was going to be eliminated today. Go draw a number, Lin Qian reminded Xinglan. After drawing a number, the contestants split up, found their respective groups and waited patiently. However, after Xinglan found her group, the other girls simply looked at her with disdain. In fact, their expressions shows that they didn't think much of her and didn't view her as a threat because she did not stand out at all. At this time, Xinglan finally understood why Lin Qian wanted her to look so countrified. If one didn't appear to pose a threat, their enemies would overlook them. What's the tactic this time? Xinglan asked beside Lin Qian's ear. Sing something that you're comfortably with and keep your true abilities hidden. It's not time to dazzle everyone yet. Understood. So, while the other contestants gave their all on stage, singing until tears almost flowed from their eyes, Xinglan's performance was extremely steady. Just like during the auditions, she maintained her simple and basic image. However, this time, there was an experienced judge on the panel that was also present at the auditions. So, as soon as he saw Xinglan, he was quite interested by her. However, he did not mention it to the other judges because he needed time to confirm her abilities. If he mentioned it now, it would merely increase everyone's expectations for her. Child, you can start, a judge initiated. This time, Xinglan did not sing a children's song. Instead, she chose to sing a warm and comforting song. After hearing the other contestants singing their lungs out, the judges' eardrums were in pain. So, a comforting song at a time like this was the perfect remedy for their tired ears. As usual, Xinglan's voice was clean. Coupled with her warm and sweet smile, she sang in much the same way that Tang Ning acted. She simply let the song flow naturally and the meaning was automatically portrayed. If one was to critique her singing technique, there wasn't much to say. But, when it came to the quality of her voice, it was stable and extremely comfortable to listen to. Out of the 5 women, only one could pass to the next round. That was a 1 in 5 chance or 20%. The probability wasn't considered high or low, but if they lost this chance, it would be forever. Soon, the 5 women made their way onto the stage. It was time to determine their fates. The other contestants didn't even consider for a moment that the common-looking woman on the left would have any chance of advancing. Were they kidding? This was the entertainment industry. It wasn't a place where a non-stylish country bumpkin could enter. But, contrary to their expectations, the judges actually announced Xinglan's name. Congratulations, Xinglan. You received the highest score in your group and will be advancing to the next round. Get ready for next week's competition. Xinglan bowed thankfully at the judges, while the other contestants were left in shock. What just happened? Why is that country bumpkin advancing? Something unfair must have happened. Meanwhile, Xinglan did not need to care what the others were saying. With her chest held high, she left the stage and returned to Lin Qian's side. I successfully got into the top 300. But now, I need to prepare for next week's competition. The day that you get into the top 100, is the day that you will meet your mentor. That is when the real competition starts. That was also when Tang Ning planned to tell everyone that she was back. The media's expressions at that time was bound to be hilarious. Chapter 830, don't go meddling with my artist." During the times when Luo Xing had nothing to film, he would take note of the progress of Journey. In fact, he roughly remembered that Long Ji mentioned that the artist newly signed by Tangning was called Xinglan, so he specifically took notice of this young woman and realized that she didn't really stand out amongst the crowd, but she was filled with confidence. This was one thing that Luo Xing liked about her, particularly when he heard that she entered the competition using a children's song. He was sure that she had the ability to win first place. At this time, he also remembered what Long Ji said about getting to know the director. Even if they couldn't become close friends, he could at least be an obedient actor. So, later that night, while Luo Xing was waiting to film his next scene, he noticed the director was a little unsettled as he listened to a series of phone calls. So, Luo Xing approached him and asked, "Director, what's wrong?" As soon as the director saw Luo Xing, he put away his phone and smiled. "It's nothing. Let's get back to filming. If you are having any difficulties, you can talk to me about it." Luo Xing didn't have much to say except for this. The director had always liked people that were obedient, talented and hardworking, so when he heard what Luo Xing said, he joked, "I'm in debt. Can you lend me some money?" "How much?" $1 million. The director was simply scaring Luo Xing. After all, a young man like Luo Xing, who was still a rookie actor, couldn't possibly pull out so much money. However, Luo Xing did not hesitate for a second and immediately called Long Ji to borrow $1 million. Seeing that Luo Xing was being serious, the director immediately shook his hands. "I'm just joking. I'm still a director. Don't make me feel like I'm taking bribes." Luo Xing put away his money and smiled. "My manager said you're a righteous person, so if you're really in trouble, I'm more than willing to help." "Oh?" The director squinted his eyes and led Luo Xing to the stairs. As a result, the two men sat down and ended up having a chat. "I know that you used to be a part of a boy group and used to sing. Afterwards, you signed with a new agency and found a new path. Young man, from now on, why don't you work for me?" Luo Xing thought for a moment and shook his head. I can be friends with you, but I will never leave my management agency." "Tell me which agency you're with." "Superstar Media." "I haven't heard of them before," the director said as he shook his head. "It must be a new agency. I don't think there's much of a future with them. You will need to struggle for at least another 3 years before you see any results." "It won't take that long. I believe that I'll be famous within 1 year," Luo Xing said confidently. "Who's your boss?" "How can you be so confident?" Luo Xing remained silent for a few seconds as he remembered what Long Ji had said about being honest with the director. So, without hesitation, he told him, "Tangning." "Who?" The director's eyes almost popped out in shock. "Tangning," Luo Xing repeated. "It's none other than the actress, Tangning." "My good boy, this is big news." "I had been wondering what Tangning went to do after she stepped out of the limelight." "It turns out, she went to be a manager." "Since she's your boss, then there's no point trying to convince you. If she can achieve a Best Actress award for herself, then helping you won't be an issue," the director exclaimed. "How come no one mentioned this?" "She hasn't revealed it yet." The director understood and nodded his head. "Don't worry, righteous young man. I will keep this a secret for you. You're going to be a feature superstar. You actually have a real talent for acting, so after this film is over, I will recommend you to other directors and help you develop a relationship with some big names in the film industry." "Thank you, director," Luo Xing immediately thanked. "There's no need to thank me. These days, there aren't many sincere people in the industry. Tangning is definitely one. I'm her fan. But, it's a shame that she won't be filming ever again." This time, Luo Xing finally got a chance to converse with the director, heart to heart. Of course, Luo Xing had yet to find out the broad spectrum of contacts that the director had access to. But, after today, Luo Xing treated Tangning's words like a royal decree. Meanwhile, Quan Zai finally discovered that Lin Qian had become a manager and was managing a young woman that was competing in a singing competition. As her older brother, Quan Zai felt it was only right for him to give a response. So, on the eve of the top 300 elimination round, when Lin Qian escorted Xinglan home, she found Quan Zai in the dark, leaning against the wall, just outside Xinglan's door. "Why are you here?" Lin Qian furrowed her brows with a cold expression. "He is?" In the darkness, Xinglan could not see Quan Zai's face properly. She simply felt that this man was extremely tall. You can go up first, Lin Qian instructed. What? Are you afraid that I'd hurt her? Quan Zai took a couple of steps out of the dark, revealing himself in the light. He then stretched out his hand charmingly towards Xinglan. Hello, I'm Quan Zai. Quan Zai. Xinglan, my brother is a jerk, just ignore him, he's dangerous, Lin Qian immediately said to Xinglan. No matter how he tries to get close to you, don't trust him. Understood? Xinglan figured that the two had some personal grudges between them. I'll leave you two to chat. I'm going to go upstairs first. Okay. As soon as Xinglan left, Quan Zai immediately stood in Lin Qian's way. You seem scared that I'd make a move on her. If you want me to hate you for the rest of my life, feel free to do it, Lin Qian replied. I hate people that can't separate business from their private matters. You don't hate anything. You simply hate me. Quan Zai laughed coldly. You are right. After speaking, Lin Qian jumped into her car. But, just before she started it up, Quan Zai ran over and threatened her. Are you not worried that I'd ruin her chances in the competition? Hasn't she already made it into the top 300? By doing this, you are simply forcing me into a dead end. Lin Qian glared at Quan Zai. Do as you please. After all, I still need to thank the Quan family for supporting me, don't I? What exactly happened between you and my mother? Aren't you great at investigating? You must have put in a lot of effort already. So, why haven't you found anything yet? Quan Zai had previously asked his housekeeper to arrange a dinner with his mother so he could try and get some information out of her. But he didn't receive any answers. Ha ha. How about this? I'm not young anymore and your artist seems decent. Why don't I pursue her? You can pursue whomever you want. Just don't go meddling with my artist, Lin Qian said before she started her car and drove off. Quan Zai laughed and quickly disappeared into the night. His Qian seemed to still have her guard up around him, but, if she wanted to be a manager, he was going to let her. As for the grudge between Lin Qian and his mother, he was going to find out about it sooner or later. Either way, he didn't think that Xinglan could win first place without depending on some form of backing. Tang Ning was dreaming.
Hit the like, thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for listening.